And these continuation setups, by the way, in my experience, after teaching so many traders, this is a common problem area. This is a common source and a frequent source of trading losses, is this idea of continuation. The most reliable setup and the most consistent and I would say simple to execute setup is going to be the zone fade, right? Fading the market at a zone. If you are right now working on becoming profitable, so you're not at the phase where you really want to kind of expand your trading even more and try to capture more and more edge. Let's say if you are a newer trader or a trader at least who is still working towards becoming consistently profitable, one thing I can tell you from experience and from teaching it to others and from seeing results of other traders who I've taught is that the zone fade setup is an amazing setup. Okay, so if you just want to be profitable, like you're beginning this, or you might have even been doing it for a few years, but you're still struggling, and you're saying, hey, look, I just want to be profitable. I don't care about catching every move. I don't care about, being the absolute best trader in the world. I don't care if I'm catching, the huge moves that sometimes happen. I just want to be consistently profitable. If that is your motive, which is a great motive, by the way, to just want to be consistently profitable, you can do that, and you will do it in a much easier way by limiting your trades to the zones, right? Trade location is the most powerful source of edge and the most consistent, the most reliable source of edge and the simple source of edge to identify, because if you're on the E-mini player site especially, you have my zones, right? You have the support resistance zones. So if you simply plot the zones and you look back at the chart, do they always work? Of course not. But combined with the understanding of the market context, which is the trade plan. So you have that as well on the E-mini player site, right? You have the trade plan, which is basically an explanation of the market context and our game plan for the day. And then you have the zones. Well, if you simply take trades that are in alignment with the trade plan at good trade location, that is a winning combination, right? I mean, I've seen traders net over 50 R a month consistently just taking zone fades, right? It's such a reliable setup. Now, it requires a mindset shift, right? So it might seem very simple on the surface, like, hey, if I'm going to buy, I'm only going to buy when it's at a zone. If I'm going to sell, I'm only going to sell if it's at a zone, right? That's kind of the basic rule here. It seems simple on the surface, and it is simple, but it requires a mindset shift. It means letting go of that need to capture every possible move in the market. It means being comfortable with missing trades, right? It means that yesterday you might not have taken any trade. It means missing some of these moves, right? And these don't happen as frequently. If you look back at the chart and you look at where the best moves took place, right? So let's say you didn't short this, right? There was a question earlier about this short setup looking for a breakdown. Okay, forget it. Let's say you didn't short it. Let's say all you did on this particular day was buy support and then exit into even the VWAP or mid or something like that, right? Buy support, exit resistance. Simple. If you only did that, so you didn't do anything all day, the only trade you took was long 53 out at 62, would that really be such a terrible thing? I mean, there is so much edge just at the zones. Now again, they don't always work, right? So you can see it comes down here, it works, right? We get a pop. It comes down here, it holds again. Well, at some point in time, after it's been tested 4 or 5 times, yes, every zone is going to eventually give way, right? So I mean, even then, you can actually avoid some of these certain losses. But let's say you took it, you made your 2R, you took it, you made a little bit, or you took a loss even, whatever, right? Well, overall, it's still a profitable strategy. I mean, the best moves are happening at the zones. So if you limit your trades to the zones, you're going to make your life a hell of a lot simpler, and you'll probably be profitable too. So think about what your goal is. Do you want to be profitable, or do you want, the just the ability to tell yourself, oh, I caught this massive move this one day, or I caught like 5 moves today, and that makes me an amazing trader. Yeah, but what about the losses along the way that you have to take in order to catch those directional moves, right? So you can see it's a simpler strategy. It's easier on the mind. Psychologically, it's easier. So trade location is, you can consider it a lead domino. It's the one thing that if you get right, everything else either becomes easier or irrelevant. So if you get location right, if you limit yourself to the zones, what happens? Well, psychologically, isn't it easier holding a trade when it's not going against you? When you're in from a very good price and you get instant edge? So now that anxiety of, oh, this trade's like 2 points against me, it's so close to my stop, that goes away. Isn't it easier holding to your target when the market's already 4 points in the money and now your target's like 3 points away? Isn't it so much easier to do that? Isn't it easier not to have to overread the momentum and do I take this pullback and where do I take it? What's my target? It's just simpler. So if you want to make it easier on yourself and your goal is to be profitable, I know traders, I have students who are crushing it with zone fades. And again, it's not going to work every time. And you really have to have that expectancy-based mindset, by the way, where you have to know, hey, it's not going to work every time. You have to be willing to lose too. And on the days where the zones don't work and, you take a couple of losses, then you can't complain about it because all the other times they do work really well. And if you're holding it for 2 to 3R, then the losses don't matter. They're a normal part of trading. But I think that, you will do significantly better if you're in the early phases especially. And, just by limiting yourself to the zones, just kind of making that a hard rule that, hey, I'm going to get good trade location. And, yeah, you're going to miss some moves, right? But at the same time, you also catch a lot of nice moves. And it'll just be easier. So, to me, the zone fade setup is the low-hanging fruit. Now what it requires is a ton of patience. So I'm not saying it's the easiest thing in the world. Trading itself is one of the hardest things anyway. So it's not like, I'm not saying it's simple, it's easy. It is simple, but it's not easy because it does require that mindset shift and it requires a lot of patience. It requires sitting there and waiting. It requires, sometimes the market getting within a point of the zone and then turning around and missing the trade and the frustration that comes with that. All of that, it's a package deal, right? That's part of it. It's going to happen. So as long as you can accept that, but the payoff is pretty big, it's worthwhile to do it, I think it's something that you guys should consider.